Hi, boys and girls. This is Grandma Sheilla, and our story today is called The Scarred Cow. Well, as soon as worship was over, Mr. Levitt, who was the ground supervisor, said to Roy and Mike, I want you boys to take the tractor and the trailer and start cleaning the Spanish moss out of the oak trees in front of the school. Well, after hooking the trailer to the tractor, the two boys drove to the tool shed. There they picked up some equipment, and the three freshman boys, who were also part of the grounds crew. As the five boys drove off, Mr. Levitt stepped out of his office and shouted, Be careful driving the tractor, Roy. Mike was sitting in the back of the trailer, and he laughed silently. He knew Roy so well that he was sure Mr. Levitt's words had gone in one of Roy's ears and out the other. Although Roy often seemed careless, he was a hard worker, and in no time he and one of the freshmen had cut enough moss off the oak tree to fill the trailer. The next job was to drive to the dump and unload it. Well, Mike and Roy climbed onto the tractor, and the freshmen scrambled up on the pile of moss to hold it down. Roy drove to the dump as though he was going to a fire. Mike, who was used to Roy's antics, watched amused as the freshmen tried their best to grab and hold on so they wouldn't be thrown out of the trailer. After unloading, they bolted back to the oak trees for another load. When the trailer was full the second time, it was Mike's turn to drive to the dump. Climbing onto the tractor, he thought smugly, I'll show Roy and those other guys a thing or two about fast tractor driving. Approaching the office on the way to the dump, Mike saw Tom and Mr. Levitt outside. The boss signaled Mike to stop. Mike, he said, I'm going to send Tom along with you this time. Roy, I want you to come with me. I have another job for you. Mr. Levitt waved the tractor on, and Mike drove slowly until he was gone around the building and through the gate into the pasture, where he thought Mr. Levitt couldn't see him. Then he threw the tractor into high gear, jerking back the throttle. The tractor leaped forward and almost lost its load. From then on, the ride was much the same as the previous one had been, except Mike took one of the corners so fast that part of the moss fell right off the trailer into the ground. As they came near the dump, Mike saw that the cattle from the adjoining pasture were feasting on the freshly cut moss. Tom shouted, Slow down, Mike! But Mike paid no heed. He continued toward the dump at full speed, proclaiming, If those crazy cows know what's good for them, they'll move. And they did move, all but one. The front wheels of the tractor rolled, knocking down the cow, and rolled right up on top of his body, pinning the animal to the ground. The jolt threw Mike off the top of the tractor under that tractor. But Tom, who had managed to hang on, quickly pressed down on the clutch, stopping the tractor just before the huge rear wheels rolled over Mike and the cow. After Tom had stopped the engine, Mike shakily crawled out from under it. The other three passengers extracted themselves from the pile of brush that had fallen on top of them. "Come here and help me get this trailer unhooked and out of the way," Mike called to a freshman. "Tom, try to back the tractor off the cow." But Tom's efforts were to no avail. "Go get Roy to bring the dump truck so we can get the tractor off the cow before it dies," Mike ordered one of the freshmen. However, just then everyone turned to see the dump truck approaching. But as it came closer, he breathed a sigh of relief. Roy was driving, with Steve beside him. Steve, seeing what had happened, jumped out. He pulled a large chain from the toolbox in the dump truck, attached one end of it to the front of the truck and the tractor. Roy backed up, pulling the tractor off the poor cow. And to everyone's amazement, the cow jumped up and trotted off. It appeared to be in good condition, except on its side, it had a rectangular burn, the exact shape of the oil pan under the tractor. Now, the oil pans always get really hot when the truck or the tractor have been used. And with it sitting right on the side of the poor cow, it had burnt him. "Now, don't anyone going telling Mr. Levitt about this. If he ever finds out, he'll fire me for sure," said Mike. So all the boys agreed to never mention the incident. A week passed before Mr. Levitt discovered the injury to the cow. When he did, Roy gave Mike the news. "I was talking to Levitt yesterday, and he said the cow must have had its skin bitten off by another cow." "What? Bit by another cow?" "Yes. He said that when cows get an overdose, the horn growth retardant, they bite each other, and he thinks that's what happened to the cow." "Phew, I guess I'm in luck this time," Mike said. Mr. Levitt continued to watch the cow's wound, but it didn't heal as fast as he thought it should, so he called the veterinarian. The vet diagnosed the wound as a burn and gave Mr. Levitt some salve to heal it. Well, the next morning at worship, Mr. Levitt asked, "Do any of you boys happen to know what happened to the cow with the burn?" All of them, but Roy, denied knowing that the cow had been injured. All of them denied knowing what had happened to the poor cow. Well, after that, the matter was dropped. No more was said about the cow with the burn. April came. Mike was talking to Ellen in the library when Steve walked up. "Guess what? Our friend Roy ratted to Levitt about the cow." Mike was stunned. He almost didn't go to work that afternoon, but he finally decided to go and get it over with. Mr. Levitt wasted no words. "If you had told me when it happened, you wouldn't lose your job. I expect you to pay the veterinarian bill, and I hope you don't have any trouble finding a new job." He paused. "You're a good worker, Mike, but I can't let a thing like this go." Mike soon got another job, and one afternoon Roy dropped by. "Hi, Mike," he laughed. "How many cows have you run over today?" It was a long while before Mike heard the end of that kind of a joke. A year and a half went by. Mike was a senior now and was working as a lab assistant in the academy biology department. One afternoon, he heard the biology teacher announce to his class in the next room, "To conclude our study of birds, I'm going to have Mike take you bird watching on the property behind the school." Bird watching was one of Mike's hobbies, so he always enjoyed taking the students on such trips. On the walk that afternoon, while the students studied the birds, he studied the students, especially one of them. His name was Ron. Ron had very little interest in biology and anything that related to it. But as he thought about it, Mike realized that he had quite a lot in common with Ron. Ron worked for Mr. Levitt, just as he himself had when he was a sophomore. And just a week ago, he had seen Ron go flying down the road on the tractor. And guess what he thought? He'll learn someday, just like I did. Now, as the group crossed the pastures, something caught Ron's interest. "Hey, Mike, look at that cow. Wonder what made that mark on its side." It had been more than a year and a half since Mike had seen the scarred cow. He replied nonchalantly, "It's just a scar." Ron screwed up his face like a question mark. "But how would a cow get a scar that shape?" he demanded. "It's sort of rectangular." "Well, it's a long story," Mike said, and then he proceeded to tell Ron the story of the scarred cow and the sophomore who had learned a few lessons about carelessness and honesty. Thank you, boys and girls. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.